Morning, everybody. It's lovely to be here again. I'm Laura. I look after the comms and public affairs at Auto Trader. I've been with the business for 10 years, and this is about the third EV Summit that we've joined up with GreenTV now. And it's brilliant to be here. I am going to be hosting the first panel. We're going to be looking at digging into some of the barriers that Mark's just presented. So specifically talking to a brilliant panel who I'll introduce in a second about affordability. As Mark said, it remains the key barrier to adoption. But there are a number of solutions, a number of levers that we can all be pulling. Price, improvements in battery metrics, actually, because obviously the batteries themselves are really developing. Range is developing in the cars. The infrastructure is coming. There's regulation, there's policy. So there's lots of different things I think we can all be talking about and actually working together on. If I could just ask the panel to join, and then I think we've got a short video before we kick things off. Marvellous. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Instead of me butchering introductions, I'm going to ask you all to introduce yourself. So we've got Andrew, Mark, and Joe. If you'd like to take it away, Andrew.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everybody. And as Aid said, thank you for coming to listen to us. I'm Andrew Pilkington. I'm now the former DCO of VINFAST, one of the new entrants that was coming to the UK that's now decided to postpone the its entrance. Before that, I set up Genesis here in the UK as managing director, and also prior to that, Polestar. So after 35 years in the industry, working for the traditional manufacturers, I moved into the EV space around about 7.5 years ago, both in terms of EV, but also in terms of a disruptive approach to coming to market. So I've learned a lot over the last 7 years, which has been really interesting, and I'm going to share some of those thoughts with you tomorrow.
Hopefully today.
But I'm just prefacing. That's my advert for tomorrow. So you must come tomorrow to listen to tomorrow's speech as well.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Smith, so head of fleet sales and certified pre-owned for Tesla. Been in EV for a long time now and done a number of different things. So yeah, here to kind of share my thoughts with you today.
Morning, everyone. My name's Joanna Smith. I co-own and run a female-run car dealer based in Tipton in the West Midlands, specialising in low-value cars. We've been trading since about 2.5 years now. So, yeah, thank you for having me here today, guys. Thank you, GreenTV and Auto Trader, and Aid for inviting me.
Oh, thank you. I should say before we get started, before I start firing questions, we will open up to the audience. So if there's anything that you'd like to talk to the teams about. We deliberately tried to pick a panel of people that had the experience across new and used, because clearly there's a huge opportunity in the used market that is now actually becoming more of a meaningful used market. So I guess just to go back on Mark's point, if the two biggest barriers at the moment are affordability and charging, and you were only able to fix one right now, what would that be? And I'm going to ask everybody. Andrew, I'll start with you.
It has to be price. That's the affordability is clearly the barrier for retail. We can see that there's incentives and there has been incentives with BIK, benefit in kind, for a number of years. For the company car driver, and salary sacrifice customers are benefiting from that as well. But it is used retail. I think Mark's figure was 8%, Mark, of new EVs are sold to retail customers. That has to change. The marketplace traditionally is around about 50% of new cars have gone to business, and 50% have gone to retail customers. And that it's changed a little bit in more recent times, but we need to get back to that level of demand from retail customers. And the only way to do that is price. Again, not my stats, but Mark's stats previously that I've seen in a previous presentation, is the price of an EV, the average price of an EV, currently, forget the discounting level, which has its own issues for customers, is around about plus 30% for the average EV compared to the ICE model. And retail customers don't have an incentive. It's their hard-earned money that they are spending. So actually, they are choosing, and we're seeing an increase in consumers actually buying PHEVs instead of EVs, and we need to address that. So it's price, simple as that.
Tesla, you've obviously hit up pricing in recent years. What's been your kind of the rationale and the thinking behind that?
So yeah, I think, look, I mean, let's just start to go in terms of coming back to your first question. I think like at Tesla, we don't see infrastructure as a barrier. Like we've got 1,500 superchargers spread across 150 sites. You know, and the goal for mass adoption is affordability. And look, I mean, Elon's been very clear on that. And I think as we kind of move forward and if we do 0% pricing initiatives, as we've done recently, you know, affordability really is a thing. And ultimately, as we head towards, you know, certified pre-owned, the £25,000 Tesla, that's how we drive affordability and adoption in that space, for sure.
Yeah, similar to the guys, I'd say affordability is the main factor. Charging locally to myself now, there's charge points everywhere. Every time I drive past, I make a conscious effort to have a look, see if there's a queue, and there's not. So I think these barriers have been broken down. I think it's the affordability factor. Myself, selling used cars, we have saw they are more affordable in the used car market, but it lacks the confidence to support that. So I think those two, we need to try and work together to make it's affordable, but be confident in buying your used EV.
And John, price specifically, we know that there is the 30% differential, both new and used actually, but there are examples of price parity, albeit a few. Yeah. When do you envisage price parity, like true price parity?
That's a tough question to answer. I think if we go back a couple of years, I would have thought it would be now or certainly 2025, 2026. I think the reality is, from a new car perspective, anyway, we'll take two because I think Joanne's point is really apt to look at used cars. I think new cars, we're some way off yet. I think we're all expecting a wave of new entrants coming in, predominantly Chinese, who are going to come in with lower priced EVs. Interestingly, obviously, the EU have now put in tariffs. Whether the UK government will do the same, we don't know. But that would obviously put the price up. I think that the new entrants coming in with their EVs, we still have the issues to overcome over and above affordability that you're talking about, the team are talking about here, in terms of the other confidence builders to get a new car customer to come into to buy an EV. So I think we're probably looking at 27, 28 if the truth be known, which actually doesn't help in terms of getting that 52% that we're looking for by 2028. I think on a used car perspective, there are examples now of only a few examples of a used EV being at the price point of an ICE car, and Mark knows these. What happens in that sense is that the customers then choose to buy the EV because then they get the advantages of ownership. Yeah, and that becomes a reason, another reason. It's a barrier on one side or a positive metrics on another, on the other side, why people do buy. But again, that we've seen over the last year, we've seen those prices coming down, and we saw that price that comparison with the BMW that Mark showed. That's good for the, if you like, for the customer who wants to buy a used EV. for the person that owns the original car as a retail customer, that's a huge, significant reduction in residual value, which has its consequences that disrupts the market in kind of a negative way as well. So we really need to see a stable EV market coming so that people have confidence, whether it's Joanna in her business to stock them, or it's a customer to buy them, or the finance companies, of course, who actually own most of the cars, most of the stock. And if they see residual value drop, then they become, one, very concerned because it impacts on their bottom line. So we need to see this stabilisation of the marketplace moving forward.
It's why the growth in used is so important, right? So, but
absolutely.
Clearly the barriers, and I think, Joe, I'll come to you. Yes, there's price parity on some models, but the prices are still high. They're still above probably your normal pricing stock level, and they're still above, you know, the kind of average that people are looking for used cars, you know, the average price point that they're looking for. So what do you think needs to be done to try and address, you know, the concerns of consumers? You know, what more needs to be done to help them and kind of you to sell them?
I think positive conversations. I think that's key, Laura. I think there's not enough positive conversations. I mean, the media, the slander EVs, but there's not enough positive conversation with people that can influence your everyday people to go out and make an EV the next car purchase an EV. I think that's key, and I think we can. The EV bubble we're all in. Retailers, we know it's the future. The government know it's the future, but it's getting that message out to the public, the general public, your next door neighbours, your mums, uncles, aunties, to convince them that to buy an EV for the next used car purchase, because I don't think there's enough positive conversations around that. I'll give you an example, Laura. I mean, we all watch the Euros, BYD, we're a headline sponsor at the Euros. You've seen it on every billboard. Now, if anyone's like me, you listen to all the podcasts, the punditry all around it. I was listening to a podcast a couple of weeks ago after one of the matches. It's called The Overlap, and there's Gary Neville, Jill Scott, Roy Keane and Ian Wright on there. So influential people that will, if you like football, you'll listen to. And they were asked a question, what would you change in the world right now? And they said EVs. This podcast, for a minute and a half, these four people are just talking negatively about experiences with EVs. Now, it's all but great, BYD sponsoring, so you can see and you can visualise it, but when you're hearing experiences from these people, it's going to influence you in a negative way. If they were talking positively in this podcast, and I'm just using that for an example, not everybody's going to listen to it. I mean, it had 1.1 million views when I listened to it. But we need to get that message across to influencers that will speak positively about EVs and tell good experiences that they've had with them, not just negativity. And I think that's the message we need to get across, and I think that's where we're struggling. Like, you can have a car reviewer say it's the next best thing, but people, when do you turn on the TV and, I don't know, a daytime television is talking about EVs in a positive light? You don't see it. You don't see it in the paper. You don't see people who scroll on social media. There's nothing positive coming from that, and I think that's outside the EV bubble. And I think that's the struggles we're finding at the minute, myself included. I mean, I sell low-value cars, but 9 out of 10 customers are a bit hesitant with EVs still. And I think that's where we've got to try to get the message across, to speak openly and positively about EVs.
And on that, actually, Mark, Tesla, clearly you've done extremely well as a new car brand, but coming more into the used car space, and now the cars are flowing through and there's a more meaningful used market. What are you doing to try and support with the positive messages, the benefits, the reliability of the cars, like trying to instill that confidence with consumers? Yeah,
for sure. I think people who are buying a used car potentially are quite sceptical, and buying a used EV, that potential skepticism is potentially a little bit higher. You know, and it should be the same journey. It should be the same experience for that customer, whether it be buying a new car or whether it be buying a pre-owned vehicle. It should be all about, you know, taking them through that journey, explaining the whole piece, not just the car, but the charging side of it as well. And it's about having that peace of mind. And this is the reason why we offer a 91-point check. We offer an extended warranty with our cars. They even include enhanced autopilot. And it should be about having that total peace of mind that that customer can take that car and enjoy that car throughout the entirety of their journey.
Andrew, did you have anything to add on?
No, I think absolutely. Certified pre-owned programs, all manufacturers have them. They're all to a standard. They're all very similar in my experience. But it's, again, getting that communication across. And it's actually about salespeople within the dealerships actually communicating those benefits. And often they don't. They just treat it as a used car, not a certified pre-owned in terms of their communication. That's the first thing. I think the other side of that as well is how do we communicate that to customers, picking up Joanne's point. There's so much negativity. Negativity is around it, and Mark highlighted that as well. We need to change the narrative. We need to have positivity around it, and we need to give reassurance to customers that are really looking at a used pre-owned EV, because that's what we really need to where we need to get the adoption. And if they can buy with confidence, with reassurance, and one of the biggest challenges is around the battery, of course, because you know what you find out is talk to customers as I do. New car customers don't worry about the battery. Okay, retail new car customers do, because actually they intend to keep their car for a number of years. They may change it after 3 or 4 years, but that's not necessarily in their psyche at the time of purchase. It's what's my car going to be worth in 3-4 years' time? And then that becomes the second or third owner's problem in terms of, will the battery be reliable, etc. And all you need is one story that says, whichever brand it is, I took my car in, they wanted £13,000 for a new battery. That goes like wildfire. The 99% of other customers who have no problem nobody hears of that. That one case goes around, and everybody will know about it, and it will hit the media, and the negativity is it's like a wildfire.
Yeah. I think we talk a lot about the need to educate consumers, like obviously being the end user, but I think there's a big gap at the moment with knowledge within the retail base as well. I think obviously manufacturers are making the cars, but I think then, there are a lot of retailers out there that haven't touched an EV yet. Joe, I know you've got one, haven't you, on your books at the moment, and brilliantly are kind of testing the water with that. But I guess it's as much about trying to get people to think about selling them, to be able to and empower them. And I guess, do you have any thoughts on how we can do that, like whether that's message or how Mark, do you want to?
Yeah, I think exactly to your point, it's how we instill confidence not just in the consumer but also actually in the wider network. And that comes down to the education piece. It's about selling the car that the customer also wants, and that's not necessarily just based on range or how the car is. I think it's more so like having a car that people want to buy and carrying those cars as well is a fundamental element of it additionally. And how we can provide the confidence in that space as well, it is also crucial. And that's through education and talking and providing those learnings.
Do you have training that you offer to?
So if we look at our locations, we do have third parties that do come in. They do come and talk to us. They can come and book a test drive in the car, come and see the car, talk to the team, understand the car more. And we'd always encourage anyone to visit a Tesla location to find out more about not just the cars, but more about what we do and how we can share, the moving forward as we go towards the mission ultimately.
Joe, for you, not being associated with a brand, like, what do you think, dealers like you need?
Exactly what you said. It's a little bit more of it's lack of education around them, and also we need to be taught and have confidence that if we are retailing a 10-year-old EV, the battery's out of its manufacturer warranty, we need to know that the warranty company we use, if anything was to go wrong, we're not going to be held and have a big hefty repair bill at the end of it. And I think that's the big thing, being a small independent business, that's our main, the main worry is if anything was to go wrong and we've got a warranty, and they are hefty bills at the minute for batteries. And if we were selling only primarily EVs and things was to go wrong, it can have a big financial impact on ourselves. I think we need to speak more about how much money it can save the consumer, how many trees and plants it's saved by purchasing next EV, how you're impacting the environment. I also think it needs to, like we were talking, Mark, and you were saying you've got your Tesla in the morning, and if you've got 3 kids, your partner wakes up and the car's already defrosted, it's warm, you haven't got to wait, you can get the kids straight in and off you go. That's not spoke about in the media, that's not spoke about at all. How many people can relate that they've got kids and the school run in the morning, and when you've got to de-ice your car and the kids playing up, that's the last thing it can put you behind. But these little positive things that we can talk about, we need to just get that out there a little bit more.
Do you have anything to add before I open up to the audience?
I think Mark and others, some colleagues or ex-colleagues in Polestar here as well. I think if you go into a Tesla store, if you go into a Polestar space, what you get is an immersive experience. You get people, colleagues, associates, whatever you call them, who are there, who are enthusiastic about the EV. Okay, they're enthusiastic about what they're doing in terms of the brands, in terms of the EV space. They're there to enthuse you about it as well as a potential customer. We can't get away from the fact that if you go into a traditional dealership, they're selling ICE cars and they're selling EVs, and actually they're selling far, far more ICE than they are. And therefore, they've got as a salesperson in one of those dealerships, they're in a different place. We're expecting them to become EV experts when actually only a very small proportion of their sales are there. And let's not forget, if they don't sell a car, they actually don't get paid. They don't take money home, as it were. So I think there's no easy answer to this one. There's no really easy answer because the manufacturers are, in my experience, developing or have developed and are developing, continue to develop EV training for salespeople. It's actually their familiarity with the material and confidence when actually they are actually selling predominantly ICE vehicles. So I think it's a real challenge. As we transition to more EV sales, then actually they'll become more confident as well, and they will then become more interested in EV space as well themselves. So it's a real challenge. I think the other point as well is that EV battery technology is moving on at a pace, and one of the if you like the challenges, but also one of the benefits of the Chinese coming is actually they're leading in terms of battery technology, and the price of batteries are coming down. That's going to be one of the biggest benefits for us of having better priced, lower priced new EVs, which then filter through into used EVs. We should not forget the fact that if, up to this year, if there were 40 EV models on the market and the leading price for that was 40 to 45 to 50,000 pounds. It's not surprising that actually after 3 years, even with the RV reduction, they're still at 25,000 pounds, which puts it out of the realms of a lot of people, particularly if they're sceptical as well or concerned. So it's an evolving piece. We need the competition coming in to drive down the price, and that will benefit everybody.
Thank you. I've got a couple of minutes left and probably got time for a couple of questions.
Chap from Tesla touched on it very briefly and no one picked up on it. Interest rates. So I've owned 3 EVs. First 2 are Hyundais, current one's a Tesla. Bought it because of price point. The Hyundai Kona, 64 kilowatt, premium SE, so the top of the line one, before the catastrophe of Liz Truss and interest rates, and I'm talking about interest rates now, on a 10,000 mile a year deal, 3-year deal, 3 months up front, was £405 a month. That is a premium vehicle. This is not an affordable vehicle. This is not an old banger. This is a premium vehicle. Now, for the 3-year-old Tesla, £485 a month, 48-month deal, and £1,000 down. I think one of the major things we're not talking about here, and if there's any members of the Labour Party here, you need to hear this, interest rates. It's the same thing in housing. I've just bought a new I'm just moving house, and I'm looking at mortgage. My fixed rate mortgage deal is 1.9%. I'm going up to 4.85. And my partner is saying, John, stop swearing. And I'm swearing because I'm seeing how much young people are paying on interest on houses. And I think this is something that's not being talked about, and I'd be interested to know the panel's view on that.
Yeah, for sure. I think if we look at affordability and we look at our pricing, like in the UK, we haven't changed our pricing in the last 18 months. And we ultimately believe that affordability is driven by stability. And I think that, if we look at our pricing initiatives, especially with the new, we've got 0% APR as an offering. No. So that's 0% APR on new. But yeah, I think if we continue to drive the affordability piece, that's how we drive accessibility, and mass adoption is through affordability.
But it hits your customers hardest because at 1.9%, it hits the people who have the least amount of money the hardest. I'm lucky I could afford that. But someone who's buying on a much lower budget, who may be scraping together £150 a month, £200 a month, the interest rate has just smacked them over the head with a shovel.
Yeah. We see it daily, John. We have customers come in that have been on a PCP or HP finance for 3-5 years and longer, and they've had to hand that car back, or they've tried that car in because they can't afford to renew because of the interest rates. So before, where they were paying the 150 quid a month, they're now paying 250, and that, as well as the mortgage payments going up as well. So that little bit of excess income that they've got can't go on the cars now. It's going on the mortgages, it's going on the energy bills. So yeah, I do think, again, if the interest rates can decline, we will see a difference within that. But from a used point of view, from our business point of view, it's helped us because we're getting more people trading in their cars and wanting a low value car. But I do think it will help the new car market, and well, they're doing 0% on new cars, but the used car, 15 to 20 grand cars, it'll help those sell a bit more when the rates have come down. I hope.
Thank you. Oh, anyone else? So it's gentleman at the back.
Rue Phillips, Genren UK. Is there anything that could be done to streamline the installation process for public and private implementation of EVSEs? It takes a long time, I understand, to install public infrastructure with municipal barriers and whatever. Do you think there's something we can do to streamline the installation process?
I think this is a question, actually, that Vicky Reid, the new chair of Charge UK, may well be extremely well placed to answer, if you'd like. She's over there, if you can get her a microphone. Well, yeah, oh, fine. She's going to do a speech, actually, after the break. Hold the question, and she assures me she's going to answer it for you, so. Oh, sorry, gentleman in the middle. Oh. We'll go to you, and then we'll go, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Also, you said originally on the statistics that, sorry, I should introduce myself, Peblar UK charge point manufacturer, before that automotive industry, particularly lithium-ion. The question I picked up on some points is that 3 out of 5 owners are company car owners, and for them it's a no-brainer. You know, anybody who thinks about not having an electric car is a no-brainer. They have massive incentive, therefore. So these cars are coming into the fleet. Now, the messaging for the people, the 8%, you've sold 9 out of 10 internal combustions, which would tie up with that figure. it's completely different messaging that needs to happen to these other people. And, you know, the government obviously effectively, and all governments are helping the company car buyers, but leaving the others high and dry. What can be done and talked about in that area to help these people, perhaps tax, VAT, whatever?
Do you want to answer?
It might not be, some people won't like it, but I think a scrappage scheme for retail buyers. Why? Because it will create positivity. It's a positive message. It will get them talking about EVs. It will get them talking about used EVs, and therefore heighten people's awareness. That for me is the first thing that needs to happen. I think the second thing that needs to happen is there needs to be some sort of assurance scheme, a bit like APTA, for someone buying a used EV as well. Because actually, mentally, they're saying, actually, the battery's got a state of health after 10 years, 8 years, 10 years, whatever. Actually, though, what happens before that? Yes, it could be covered by a warranty, but it's going to be very expensive, and they're very nervous around that. They're not nervous around the car itself, it's the technology within the car that concerns them. So we need to have some sort of assurance program as well. And I think the other assurance program I would seek as well is we have seen new entrants come and go already into the marketplace. And if you've bought an EV and that new entrant has now left the market, what's your car worth? Yeah, and where do you get it serviced? So I think there's that, whilst new entrants coming in is a positive, there are positive benefits of that to consumers. I think the real challenge for consumers, and particularly retail consumers, but we see this actually in the corporate market as well, the adoption of new entrants by contract hire and leasing companies, they're not that positive, because actually they're seeking reassurance. But let's go back to retail, that actually that company that enters will still be here in a year, 2 years, 3 years' time. And so we need a government-backed assurance scheme for new EV companies that are coming in.
I think that's the big thing, is
Yeah.
confidence to go ahead. Somebody else to say, look, the warranties are expired, but you're fine.
Yeah.
In English.
Yeah, but that's even if they're here. What happens if they've gone after 12 months? And that's so for me, those are the two real schemes that I would ask or back that we get: scrappage, and then an assurance scheme for new entrants.
There are a lot of heads with that, actually. I think we should talk about that in one of the networking breaks. I know there's a gentleman in the middle. This thing is flashing at me. I'm not doing my job if I don't listen. If your question is super quick, you can slip it in, and then I'm going to have to go to the break.
Yes, not ED, Lightning Tactics. I entered this industry, cut my teeth more than 10 years ago, literally in education, working for Nissan on the electric vehicle specialist program. It was working amongst dealerships about training, service departments, etc. Quite quickly picked up into infrastructure. I rolled out the first multi-brand education piece for dealership, working up and down the country, doing 40,000 miles a year, doing literally what Joanna touched on, is just educating salespeople and staff. Breaking down the barrier in that respect, education is still the problem 10 years later. We haven't broken any barriers, and we're still talking about the same problems. Where is that going to go?
Can I just quickly answer that in one sense? We agree with you. I think the other side, though, is that one of the biggest issues, not necessarily with service advisors, but with salespeople, actually, in main dealers, the turnover of staff, not all brands, but in a lot of brands, is 40% per annum. So actually, that there is not a retained knowledge that's being built upon that actually is being then passed on to customers.
I'm well aware of that piece, but more than 80% of sales managers are retained, given just where they are in the market.
Yeah.
You touched on a point earlier, Andrew, that we're expecting salespeople to become EV experts. We're not. We're actually asking them to know their product, to sell what is right for the person that's buying, get them to know what it is they're doing with the vehicle, as opposed to just churning out the vehicle, what they are.
I agree. I'm not making excuses for them. A salesperson, easiest route, you know this, easiest route to the sale, that's what they do, okay? Because actually, they're driven by targets, they're driven by the 80% of sales managers still in their position. Great, that's super. They're bean counters now. They're not sales managers, they're not managing people, they're managing deals, and that's the challenge we've got in most dealerships across the UK.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to have to leave it there. Thank you. See you after the break.